Bungie heaven, here's the thing. You trade your gear for angels' wings. And once we've all said goodbye, you take a run and leap and you learn to fly. Better than Microsoft and Sony. Bye-bye, Rumble Ponies. Your 5,000 shotguns in the wind.
All right, listeners, it's gonna be okay. I know you miss Rumble, I miss Rumble too. Maybe it'll come back. Or maybe it'll get replaced with something new.
New and better Rumble or something.
I'll be a new and better pony instead. Everything's gonna be okay. Welcome to the show. How's it going, guys?
It's going just fine, Birds. I'm glad you're here with us, and you're gonna be okay. We all know it. And, it's good to hear you take a positive stance here.
Yeah, you know, you get a whole new game. You don't want the whole old game. I'm sad. Don't get me wrong. I'm sad. I love some Rumble, and I was looking forward to playing some Rumble in D2, but you never know. You never know, and I'll certainly have fun playing other stuff. So, hey man, good job on that song.
Oh, thank you. I dedicated it to you. That was for you.
Oh, thanks, man. Swain,
Hi.
how you feeling, Swain?
I'm all right. I'm very busy man. So
Yeah,
getting time to record is always pleasant.
take a little load off.
Yeah.
Kick off your boots. Record an episode of Crucible Radio 2, the show for all things Destiny 2 PvP.
I don't know why you guys are all chill and quiet and calm and mellow. I'm freaking hype because all week I've been doing nothing but following E3 news on my computer while I try to stay focused on things I'm supposed to be doing. And I mean, a lot of news from a whole bunch of other games we don't care about as much, and then plenty from Destiny 2. And man, it just feels like it's really starting to feel like this game's so far away. I just want to play it.
It's real, though.
It is.
We have a whole timeline now of days that we can count down till, starting till we get the opportunity to pre-order a game that won't be out for months after that.
So, I mean, if you haven't already heard about it, the open beta, well, the beta starts on the 18th of July for PlayStation users. They get that early access. And then after that, it opens up to Xbox. A day later. Opens up to Xbox. And then there's an open beta for anyone that hasn't bought it yet or pre-ordered it.
Yeah, and you get a couple days, July 21st to the 23rd. That's plenty of time. And if you're playing on PS4 and playing on Xbox One, that's still quite a bit of time to have the beta. And we do know that we're going to see most of the same content that has been available at E3 and the reveal event.
With the addition of the Sentinel class.
That's true.
During the beta.
That's true. And supposedly some secrets. Bungie likes to have fun. There's definitely references people still make to the beta, things like that now. And they did preview a little Iron Banner, which was sort of in a weird form originally, but the beta was like a fun, exciting time because of all this new stuff was coming. So it's going to be another exciting time. I'm very, very stoked to just be playing it at home and no lines to wait in.
No lines to wait in. No cross-country travel. It'll be nice. It'd be nice to play some D2 in my house.
I didn't play the D1 beta. I don't know if I've ever played it. No, actually, I've played some betas, but I've never played a Destiny beta before.
Yeah.
And I can't wait, man. Can't wait to see it.
I was going to bring up that it's very exciting. We don't want to get our hopes way, way, way up, but it felt good to see all of the accolades that Destiny 2 was getting at E3. Like they had this sign, and it was like filled with all of like the different news reports, news places and websites that are giving out awards for their favorite E3. So Destiny 2 had a ton of nominations for awards.
Yeah, it's like surreal to hear people being excited for Destiny 2. I mean, like,
don't you want to trash it a little bit? Like,
yeah, PC World saying this is the best looking game shooter we've ever seen on a PC. And I'm just like, whoa,
what?
That's like not nothing. That's like that's high praise.
That's high praise.
It's kind of weird to see Destiny in some sort of positive spotlight in the general gaming community. And I mean, E3 had a lot of cool stuff, but in a world where there wasn't a bunch of huge brand new announcements, certainly not that was like hands-on at the event, it was cool to like everyone wanted to play Destiny 2. The lines were shut down like almost immediately with people jumping in line.
There was like a 4-hour wait.
Yeah. I actually met up with Noosk and the gang afterwards, and they were saying that it was insane. Like just the sheer size of crowds trying to play Destiny, even compared to other booths very, very near them. It was just like everyone's here for Destiny. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think all the hype and how well received Destiny 2 has been so far makes some of these, tougher pills to swallow just a little bit easier. Like the loss of Rumble, that's tough. But, for a great game that Destiny 2 is making out to be, I'm willing to make some sacrifices to what we've been used to.
There's this thing in my line of work called second system. It's this idea that like you set out to build something the first time and you have this great vision and all these things you want to do, and you do all this planning and you figure out and you get it perfect, and then you build it, and then you realize like you missed the mark. You did a good job, but you can't wait to do the second one. And to like have this sophomore release come out, this second try at more perfectly capturing the world of Destiny. I'm kind of glad that they're not throwing everything in the kitchen sink in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to have expansions. We're going to have live events. We're going to have updates.
We'll get the custom games. We'll get all of that, eventually. And I think that's just simply because they didn't want to clutter up the release.
I do believe we had at one point poured one out for old school private matchmaking. Is it possible to pour it back in?
It's dry. It's on the sidewalk. I'm not really sure how we would pour it back in.
We'll just have to refill.
A nice bounty for the first person to figure out how to glitch your way into a private match with some friends.
In Destiny 2.
Indeed too.
I honestly think, at least for me, I'll be so enamored with the main story for like the first month that hopefully by the time custom games get here, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I just finished up what I needed to finish up, and I can move on to playing some custom games with my friends.
Yeah, there's been a lot of no's that we're getting, and that's because, you can't talk about something you haven't experienced yet without comparing it to what you have. And that's normal. And a lot of the questions are valid. It's certainly not a conversation worth having, but stuff like no private matches, no ranked just yet. Destiny and Bungie they've been really open about what they're talking about. And I mean, come on, we've heard articles before. They don't say anything if there's nothing to say yet. And, they did so many interviews that day, I'm sure all week. And for the next coming months, Luke Smith has a lot of talking to reporters to do. And he's always very casual about how he talks. He doesn't mean anything so harsh, like he hates lore or something like that. But I was explaining to someone like, just to try to wrap our heads around all of it. It's like they are so quick to say, we're not ready to talk about that yet. Or we have no comment on that. If there's nothing or there's something they can't say. So to hear so much discussion on those things from Luke and Deej and Mark and stuff like that, to be like, we've got something in the works. I just think that's the Bungie way of doing something, where it's like they're going to take their time to do it how they want to do it, as opposed to just applying something for the sake of appeasing people. You know what I mean? So when Luke Smith talks about some way to show off your prowess in the Crucible, I just get excited for that, even if it's not happened immediately. But hey, I digress. We've got a lot of cool stuff we know is coming. Swain, did you hear that Sentinels are going to have a Ward of Dawn?
I did hear that, but that's
cool.
They also won't have a beard.
All right. So your Titan can't have a big beard, but he can cast a bubble. And That's kind of like two supers in one. I'm really interested to see how that plays out.
I'm sorry, guys. I canceled my pre-order, so I'm
You
going to
did?
move on.
I mean, here's the thing is that those helmets, they fit really snugly. Like they're just right up against your head. Are you going to compress a big bushy beard down to fit into a helmet?
Keeps
and then
you,
you're just
it'll
like,
be so warm inside the helmet with the
I
beard.
mean,
It
it's because they keep in oxygen and they keep out toxins from the hive and stuff like that. If you compress your beard into that, one, you might not be able to breathe, and two, your chin's really going to break out just because of the sweat inside of that helmet. So
you're pressed up right
it's
against
a
it.
real hygiene thing. I mean, and we've got to consider that as Guardians.
Have they announced whether or not enormous afros are going to be in this game?
Only big old afros.
Only for the exos.
Yeah.
Big robot, solid afros.
All
Just
right.
made up of
Well,
wires.
We found out a lot of stuff about D2 this E3 week. And a lot of it applies to PvP, some PvE stuff that certainly we like to hear as well. Let's go through it. What do we know? What do we have?
One small thing that stuck out to me was this new heavy weapon type, and it's being called a linear fusion rifle. And real simply, it just means it functions like Queenbreaker's bow.
Yeah, it's like straight. There's no, is it not a bolt, but more so a projectile?
It does seem to be a little bit more like, I can't quite describe. There's so minimal footage out there, but just to know that there's some sort of charge time on a sniper style gun is cool. But it definitely had a more open holographic scope as opposed to the sniper scope that covers your whole screen. So I'm really wondering the damage output. Like, does that one shot a Guardian in the head? Is the better view a trade-off for the charge time or something like that? But if it's anything like the Queenbreakers, that's going to be like a gun I certainly seek out. I think all the Vice weapons look so cool. And we definitely saw more in the story mission that people have been uploading, and they just look gorgeous. And I love the scopes on them.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to read this directly from our notes that we have for tonight's episode. Ghaul is mean.
Yep.
That's what it
I thought
says
that was
here.
important to bring up.
Oh, okay.
Explains so much. Oh my
Optimus. Isn't it Optimus Prime? That's the same voice.
One of the Optimus Primes, not the guy from like the movies, but yeah, he's done a few very cool voices if you want to look him up on Twitter. And he's been really excited to talk about being Ghaul and the fact that we just get this villain. There's two things I noticed from that, and this will be our one PvE thing for this episode. How about that?
There you go.
Go for it.
We have never seen our Guardian just lose, like flat out. You know, and we don't see our Guardian do a whole lot. It's not like our Guardians are the best actors. But, you know, we stand there, we take a deep breath, we confidently stare down the queen, or we're ready to kill a god when we get to the Black Heart, or, you know, we're never not ready. And then we go and beat Oryx and Atheon and Axis, and it's no big deal. So we see Ghaul like literally kick this Titan off the ship. And I'm just like, that's the first time we've just utterly lost. And that is really cool. And that makes me think like, oh, it's a villain that's good. And then the little thing I noticed, if you watch the E3 trailer, they show this Titan up in that cutscene, and he's kneeling down and he like gets kicked across the thing, and Ghaul is monologuing at him. And then he gets kicked off. And when we see this part where we're sort of like pulling ourselves up out of the dirt, and for the rest of the trailer, the Titan's armor is really beat up. And actually one of his pauldrons is like missing on his shoulder. So I'm really wondering if we get some sort of like armor set where it's like, hey, we are the legend. Here we are at the tower. Check out this new set of armor that the Vanguard made for us specifically. Can't be beat. And then suddenly Ghaul destroys us. And maybe when we're just sort of like getting our light back and stuff, instead of the white gear without any flair to it, like we did in Destiny 1, maybe we get the like beat up armor that we've been seeing in the ads. I think that'd be so cool.
That is pretty cool.
I like it.
PvE thing over.
PvE thing.
PV thing?
You guys did a good job. I don't need to do it again.
Yeah, that's about as confusing as PV episode, or whatever we were saying.
Episode.
That rolls off the tongue.
The PV episode.
So we found out a bunch of stuff at E3. In particular, we got so many Arcstrider goodies. We got Arcstrider perks and gameplay, and oh my God, we're going to talk about that. But if you guys happen to be subscribers to the little publication known as Game Informer, their latest episode has got a extended piece on Destiny 2. We found out some new details, but one big one for the PvP world, in keeping with, I don't know, maybe some other games that are not dissimilar. The playlists have been divided into two categories. We now have a quick play category. This was described as, put your feet up, have some fun with friends, the beer and peanuts section of the Crucible. And then there's also a competitive section. And in the competitive section, we're going to have Countdown, which we've seen, and a as of yet unannounced second competitive playlist. It sounded like it's a whole new game mode that we haven't seen, or some significant variation on the other. Whereas in quick play, you've got your standard clash control supremacy. And what was interesting, and I feel like I've heard this sort of hinted at in interviews, is that there was an understanding that things might work differently here. You could have, let's say, different matchmaking between the two of them. So what makes sense in quick play, where you just want to get in, have a fun time, not all sweaty, versus a competitive match where you want to be matched up as a team and against another team that's sort of at a similar skill level as you, and really, sweat it out. This is big. I think there's a lot of possibilities here.
I suspect, obviously, that because one of the expansions is Osiris based, that maybe that other yet unnamed playlist will come from that. Osiris is still testing us, apparently.
Yeah.
So we'll
we
see.
have not passed the trials, apparently.
I don't think it'll be trials, but they've mentioned previously that it'd be something similar. So I think giving that some time, sit in the oven, bake a little bit, get us ready before we actually take on something of that nature.
Trials has become such a fact of life for a lot of PvP players, but remember, we didn't have trials for a long time.
Yeah.
It's one of it's probably the main event now.
It'll be really weird to have a weekend of not trials because it's just something that's been there for so long. And in my opinion, a lot of the balance for the game is, well, at least in the player's eyes, comes from just that game mode. And we spend a lot of time talking about this gun's crazy overpowered right now. The special ammo economy is crazy. You get too much special ammo. And a lot of that opinion comes directly from people playing trials. And obviously that's one of the game modes that's keeping the game alive right now. But it's still tough when you're just balancing everything for essentially one game mode.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just geeking out a little bit here, but the fact that they've separated them, just it gives such a lever to solve problems. So much of the people's problems with matchmaking in D1 was because they had to find a one size fits all solution for all of the reasons that people go into the Crucible. And to now just be able to say, look, we recognize that there are different settings in which you want to play that aren't always just, pure trials, 9 rounds to the lighthouse. There might be different rewards. There might be a different grind in each of them. We have heard that there is going to be at release no ranking, which I guess makes sense, right? Because when everyone in a game like Destiny, when everyone's still grinding for gear, you don't want to just have that right out of the gate. But hinted that might be arriving later in the year.
The other thing is, especially if we're still on balance and the ability to balance, Luke Smith did mention that the way they built Destiny 2 is built a little bit better for tuning, as suspected. They're going to be able to go in and change specific weapons and the way specific weapons interact, rather than in Destiny 1, when they went in, they had to change the archetype that weapon was in. They couldn't just change the individual weapon. And that comes from like the framework of the game, what they've got in it. And, it gives a little insight into why Destiny 1 had to have such broad, changes made. And, it didn't always sit well with everyone when their favorite gun was lumped in with a nerf for another gun.
Yep. You have the exotic, scout rifle and that archetype with the barrel mods on it that just makes it tough for everything else. But hey, look, they got levers now. They got knobs. They're going to get it all dialed in.
Buttons.
Some buttons, a number of switches.
It just sounds like the balance machine is a fidget cube.
Got it. Kind of sounds fun. I suppose with any new game, you don't get the balance perfect out of the gate. I'm really curious to see what the first OP loadout, the first OP strategy is going to be.
Nerf Dawnblade, please.
I tell you guys, I'm looking at these Arcstrider perks. It might be Arcstrider, like for the high skill players. This could be Blink Shotgun. Are we ready? Are we to talk about Arcstrider yet?
I wanted to drop my exclusive knowledge from meeting up with the Bungie devs of the Crucible sandbox design.
Please tell the story.
Do it.
Actually, no, it was really cool. I got to meet Derek Carroll and Shaw, the guy who does PC, and say hi to Greg and Grant and Claude and Noosk. And it was fun to catch up.
Hi, Claude.
But they told me, so for all you funny gamers on Twitter who thought you were so clever the first time you called a new subclass a different name, it was told to me that Dawnblade has been referred to as the Dongblade at Bungie for like months. So if you thought you were clever calling it the Dongblade, you are way behind. They've been doing it forever. And I was just like, I was shaking my head. I'm like, you've sealed it in. It's locked in now. It's what it's forever known as.
That's really what we're going with.
I was just like, all right, fine.
Embrace the dong.
Sweats with Dongblade, right? We're sweating with Dongblades.
Yeah. Anything else you want to permanently install? Any unfortunate vocabulary?
Right, we talk about Arcstrider. Sentinel and Arcstrider. How can we make those rude?
Arcstrider, more like Fartstrider. Locked in now.
I actually think I might main Titan just to not have a phallic nickname because I really like referring to male Titan Sentinels as Captain America and female Titans as Wonder Woman with the shields.
That's pretty good.
And that's just way more fun than pole dancer. But this Arcstrider, let's talk about this because these new subclasses are the most intriguing things about the new game. We have yet to see Sentinel. We'll all experience that at the same time with the beta. And boy, is there a huge mystery around the Warlock. What the other subclass is, just please tell me. Okay, let's just talk about what we have. We've got Arcstrider info.
Yes.
This is I'm not even being hyperbolic and just hype because like, oh, podcast, love Bungie, love Destiny. Literally feel like Arcstrider fits my play style fantasy and what I really want to do even more than the Dawnblade. It's so cool.
It's so cool looking because it's got a very, Darth Maul, super talented, martial artist feel to it. And it's like, oh man.
Can the PC guys create a mod that makes this lightsaber sound when you pop your super? So when you start flipping, you just hit that.
Man, I didn't even think about mods, but that's cool.
Yeah. So this is the spiritual successor to the Blade Dancer, a subclass that was once quite insanely powerful. If you've seen what Bashi can do with a Blade Dancer in year one, you probably know that it was once pretty feared. But so it has a lot of that, but it's definitely different. I mean, once you get past the grenades, this becomes a whole different thing, and it's really cool. Birds, you're the resident hunter. What were you thinking? What did you feel about these skill paths and stuff?
Well, so I do want to, because not everyone out there is going to be staring at the list of perks at the same time that we do.
If you're driving, please put down your phone.
Yeah, right. We'll just tell you, just to set the stage. But I have an observation. This answered one very, very important question for me in a very positive way. Okay, so we've got the same grenades as Blade Dancer. All right. We've got similar jumps, except instead of the blink, we have the same 3 jumps as all the other hunters. Obviously, we've got the same class ability, the dodge shimmy, that either is going to reload your weapon or recharge your melee.
The shimmy.
And we've got a little shimmy. And we've got 2 different talent trees. We know all the perks now. We can see the big picture. There is Way of the Warrior, and there's Way of the Wind.
The way of the fart.
God damn it. The way of passing wind. I hate this. Least favorite bit on the show.
We're going real low effort. Crucible Radio
Welcome to
2.
Crucible Radio, the podcast for all things listening to PvP.
All fart jokes, PvP.
Okay, let's talk about these. Let's talk about these one at a time.
Okay.
In particular, the second one, Way of the Wind, is interesting to me. But Way of the Warrior, this one I think is a game changer. And I want to point out, keep in mind that we already have a definition for warrior. It is a verb, to warrior, warrioring in Destiny 1. And that is when you are playing way up close, you're taking big risks, you're putting yourself in danger, you're going for it, and you're succeeding. This is the up close shotgun slide, like just hope your reaction time is faster than everyone else.
Pressure.
Yep, exactly. And lo and behold, they deliver us this Way of the Warrior. We've got 4 perks, as always, in our talent tree. Combat Flow recharges dodge ability after a melee kill.
Ooh.
Deadly Reach extends the range of melee after a dodge is used. Lethal Current makes arc staff hits attack twice after a dodge is used, and Shocking Blow, an arc damage standard melee attack. The number one question I had after getting a chance to play Gunslinger and using my fun little shimmy step and counting to 15 and going, oh boy, this is not Shade Step. This is not something I can spam 5 times in a fight. You really have to pick and choose it. Well, we got the story now, which is not only do we have perks that support recharging your dodge ability, but they set up a combo. Mm-hmm. It goes like this: attack and close, go warrior mode, use your melee. This will recharge your dodge if you get the kill. Then you dodge, and that recharges your melee, and you are up close because you are warrioring, and now your melee is recharged. Now your melee has got extended range from Deadly Reach perk, and if you time it just right so you get the kill with it, you are going to recharge your dodge ability. Rinse, lather, repeat. This, I love it. I love it because Shade Step is awesome, and it is easy, and it is always there. Like I've called it so many times, just like my perfect panic button that I miss when I go anywhere else. Here you could potentially have your dodge more often than you do with Shade Step, but you got to earn it. You've got to have your situational awareness. You got to get up close. You've got to time that melee kill because it's, they're not doing as much damage as year 1 melees to make sure you get the kill with it. You've got to work the reach. You need to make sure you do your dodge when you're close to the enemies. But it just sets up this combo, this like multi-step combo that really good players are going to be able to use really well. I can't wait to not be one of those really good players, but pretend like I am and figure it out anyways.
Ooh, look how good Lumi is at this. I'm never going to be able to do that.
To triple clarify, I mean, when you're talking about the dodge, I remember using that, and we just had the Gunslinger, and there's 2 forms of the dodge. Obviously, they both offer some evasiveness, but the Marksman's dodge reloads your weapon, and then the Gambler's dodge recharges melee when used close to an enemy. When I looked at that with just the Gunslinger in context, I was like, reload. Clearly, I think that's awesome. I can shoot, dodge, keep shooting. Mm-hmm. When now looking at Gambler's dodge, I'm like, oh, that's why that one is actually really cool. And that just allows you to just chain these punches and dodges and stuff like that. And maybe the marksman's dodge is for the gunslinger, which is a subclass really dedicated to precision, accuracy, and it's for the accurate shooter who can play passively if they want to. And then the Arcstrider is the literally punching you in the face a lot.
So everyone is psyched about the beautiful trifecta of Gambler's Dodge, Combat Flow, and Deadly Reach. One thing that I think is probably a little bit smaller, but I'm still excited for is the Lethal Current perk. Makes arc staff hits attack twice after a dodge is used. This is incentivizing you to use your dodge as part of your super. I don't know if they count, if your super counts as melee hits to potentially recharge it. That seems like it might be a bit excessive. But between like the beautiful just like animation of the super and the ability to get, throw dodges in there and mix it up, like this, I think at high level play is going to be kind of what Blade Dancer, like just the name of it, just like literally dancing your way around the enemies.
Yeah. It's truly going to be the best looking string of kills with a super, hands down.
Oh yeah. If you're putting out a montage, you got to have a Way of the Warrior clip in there. Cool.
All right. So what about Way of the Wind? Because this one stuck out to me the most when we first saw this. And I'm a little intrigued by Way of the Warrior now that we've really discussed it. But this is the other one was where I felt like I was going to really dig it.
Here's what we got. First up, Disorienting Blow. Melee attack that disorients enemies when hit. Kills with Disorienting Blow instantly recharge the ability. Lightning Reflexes take less damage when dodging with Arc Staff. Okay. We've got Battle Meditation, Recharge Grenade, and Melee faster when critically wounded. And finally, Focused Breathing. Increased sprint speed. Sprinting reduces your dodge cooldown. This reminds me of looking at the Striker talent trees, where you've got one where everything is in complete synergy and another where it's just a whole bunch of good kit together. I'm not sure what the combo is here, how this fits together. Like, nice that you've got built-in Frosties. Nice that you've got Grenade more often. And the Disorienting Blow is going to be fascinating. Your little flashbang.
Yeah, it feels like a flashbang for like McCree, where he like throws it and you're like, hopefully it's not that intense.
We're not supposed to talk about it, but like when we all saw McCree, it was like, they just caught Night Stalker. And now we see this is like, they just caught McCree. Like the feedback loop is set up. Bonesy, what do you like about this?
I like it because one, it reminds me of Stormcaller with the Pulse Wave perk, because when you're critically wounded, you get that faster handling. And it's obviously different, but that means you can be a little more pushy, a little more aggressive, take those shots. And if you're good at evading, you can not worry so much and you get rewarded for it. You get rewarded for putting your face into the line of fire, which is like, maybe that appeals to people who just get shot a lot, but the focused breathing with increased sprint speed, and on top of that, acting like kind of Frosties is really awesome for me because I play a very spacious game. I love flanking so much. I will take the route because I've taught myself to make that decision quickly. I don't dilly-dally, and I'm not just like, all right, well, guys, like hold them off for a few minutes. I'm like, I'll flank. You won't even know. I'll meet you on the other side before you even turn the corner. So to have that ability to say, I'll be a little quicker if I'm the one that splits off and goes around, and by the time I'm there, I might have my grenade up. That's just awesome. That really fits in with my style of being evasive and really using more of the map and trying to outposition before I try to outgun. And it just seems cool. It's how I play Hunter now, so it's going to be easy to transition for me.
Mm-hmm. It gives you some choices, right? Like if you're about to go into a fight, but your cooldowns are all blown, you need to recharge, you don't want to wait however many seconds, you can make a tactical decision to charge them up a bit faster. Maybe you want to, I'm going to do this flank because I need to recharge them. I might as well get a free grenade for doing this sprinting. Or maybe you're gonna peek and take a shot. And I don't think people are going to be using battle meditation to bait out a grenade, take the damage, and then get their cooldowns recharged. Yeah, I like this one. This one seems like a more reliable tree for sort of all skill levels. Way of the Warrior seems like you either get it perfect or you miss one and your combo's over and you're back to basics. But this one is more about getting hit, about needing to move, about taking some damage, or having a panic button melee that can stun your enemy and buy you some time.
I just love the idea of punching someone and running away. It's like the true pocket sand of just like, God! And then like they're like, ow, my eyes! And you just disappear. Like you don't even try to kill them. You're like, I'm gone. This is the most annoying subclass in Destiny 2. Yeah, on top of that, and the animations with this thing dancing around and doing flips, that footage that was playing behind Deej, it's the one that everyone's uploading and stuff, but there's a barrier that a Titan drops in front of the room on countdown, and this Arcstrider just pops it and does a flip through the barrier, and anyone in the room is just like, oh God! And it just cleans up in there. It was just so cool, and I'm just like, I want that. I just want to watch that happen.
Here's a question for you. With Way of the Warrior, it seems to me like there is an obvious choice for which of the two dodges you use. For Way of the Wind, does it seem like one dodge is better than another? Or is it better fit for the perks? I wonder about Gambler's dodge. You know, again, you sort of set it up. Like if you get the kill with Disorienting Blow, you're going to get your melee right back. So maybe you don't necessarily want Gambler's dodge to recharge it, but maybe you could, there's a combo where you disorient them once and you don't get the kill, and you do a quick dodge, recharge it, and throw your Disorienting Blow again to get the recharge on it. Maybe it works like that. The sprint helps with the dodge cooldown. But maybe if you're playing a longer game, you're doing a lot of sprinting, maybe you want that reload perk and just rely on, using a high impact, low magazine weapon, disorienting them, unloading, doing your dodge roll, and being ready to finish the attack, seal the deal.
I can definitely see an argument for both dodges, whereas with Way of the Warrior, I think you want Gambler's dodge to just make that whole chain have an extra step and keep all of those perks and synergy and still going. I could still see using both on Way of the Wind. With a reload weapon, if you're hurt and you're getting your stuff back when you're critically wounded, but you can get out of there, get your weapons loaded again, and then maybe you're more comfortable keeping pressure, but from a distance. You don't have to quite run away, especially if you're on the attack and you need to get in the room that they're guarding. Might be helpful to just stay in there and have more ammo to keep pressure on them. So I could see arguments for both, which is good. I want to be able to use both.
I think there's one thing we're all going to be practicing that like 3 months from now, we're going to have a segment on the show, which is how to save your melee until you can guarantee you're going to get a kill with it. Because both of these have perks that getting kills with them is going to recharge something. You want to make sure that your melee is the final hit.
Yeah.
How do you build up to that moment?
With the abilities probably being on larger cooldowns, you're going to have to keep track of them much more and utilize them a lot more smarter.
Yeah, a lot more smarter, Sway.
Yep.
Yeah.
D2, we're going to talk a lot more smarter while we're at it.
But yeah, utilizing them a little bit better is going to be something to pay attention to going forward.
Well, if Voidwalker or whatever it's going to be called successfully blows me away, I'll stay Warlock. Probably start with a Warlock no matter what, but Arcstrider has my attention. That's for sure.
Wouldn't it be funny in D2 if we all just like rotated one?
I was kind of wondering because I was like, oh, I can't just main Hunter. That's Birds' thing and it messes up the show. But if we all switch...
If we also, because Swain, I mean, you're going to want to play some Dawnblade. You like being on
Swain's
fire,
like, no,
getting up
I'm
the air, throwing stuff. Nope. Okay. I mean, I'd be happy to play some Titan. I'll be Captain America or Wonder or Diana of Themyscira.
Yes.
You notice they never said Wonder Woman at any point in the movie. Go see that movie. Oh my God. Like,
right. They
DC
didn't.
comic movie. They didn't say it the whole time. I thought that was nice. She has a name. What's it talking about? Oh, and then yeah, Bonesy, you will go.
I'm gonna main hunter.
Go Arcstrider main.
I played a buttload of Blade Dancer in year one. Like we were recording the show. It was still early on. You know, we had to, we were very much like, I'm the Warlock guy. Secretly, I was playing Blade Dancer every weekend in Trials a lot. Like I've spent a good time on every class, but a lot on Hunter. So I'm just saying.
Are you just saying?
Yeah.
Saying, just not saying.
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying it, but you know.
Yeah, no.
Gotta say it. I gotta say it.
Well, to wrap up this episode, we've got one more segment, one more chit chat to have. It's E3. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of new stuff, but we didn't want to totally take a step aside from our new segments that we're doing. We're doing a series on back to basics. And last week we talked about skill levels and what different skill levels are working on. What should you be doing if you're kind of like a bronze ranked player versus someone who's diamond and trying to be one of the best? And we got this a comment from Neon Knight 042, and it was really cool. I'll just read this little message I got. He said, "Hey, listen to the latest CR basics. Great one of the best. I just wanted to reiterate what you birds were saying about strategy versus tactics. So maybe in another episode, you could go more in depth with what those really mean and more examples. Trying to get into that stuff, learning chess, and it all just hit a chord with me." Well, Neon Knight, we can absolutely talk about that more because that's one of those high-level thinking ones and definitely deserves more than the 5-minute summary we did. So let's talk about this. Strategy versus tactics. These are things that diamond level, master level players are working on all the time because everyone at these levels has those fundamentals down. And now it's just about beating your opponent using your brain, basically.
I think actually, if this is a new concept to you, if your strategy thus far has been find somebody and shoot them, the way you get into this is with tactics. This is short-term decision making, and I think it's a big part of a phrase you'll hear sometime, which is you got to be able to win your 1v1s. That if it's you and another player, that you're gonna prevail more often than not. And okay, sure, a large part of that is having really good aim, being able to hit your shots, being able to pace your shots if you're at range, whatever. Another big part of it is positioning. So did you get yourself into a advantageous position before the fight even started so it's in your favor? Assume you're on equal playing ground. You've got your shade step, you've got your grenade, you've got your melee. How do you use these things to your advantage to get the kill? And so when we start to talk about things, even just in a 1v1 setting, like baiting out a grenade, like they probably have their grenade. And so I want to take that out of the equation. So I'm going to do some small action. Maybe I'll peek, maybe I'll stay crouched, but then pop up so I show up on their radar. I'm going to do something aside from just running up to them and shooting them to get them to respond in a certain way, to get them to think a certain way. And maybe trick them or maybe just, have them run to a place I want them to run to. I think that's really how it starts. And I will miss Rumble because Rumble is such a good training ground for this, that you're going to go up against players that are better than you. But if you can be good in even just this one-on-one tactical thinking, you can win some fights that I don't want to say you shouldn't have, but you probably wouldn't have if you hadn't outsmarted them. Yeah.
And when I compare it to chess games, chess players are always thinking 8, 10, I don't know how many moves ahead. They're way smarter than me. But they've got this whole game plan lined out, and that's their strategy, right? Like they are going, well, if this game starts heading in this direction, or I know my opponent, so I'm going to enter this game with these things in mind. They've got that strategy. But still, when it comes down to each move, they're looking at their head and saying, okay, I've got to move this space. I have this opportunity here, or I have this opportunity here. Which one do I choose? And I love that stuff in Destiny because it's like, for example, what happens when you get into cover? You're being shot. You got one headshot off on them. You both miss. You tuck into cover. From cover, you've blocked that line of sight. You can come out the same side. Maybe it's a box. Maybe you can go to the left. Maybe you can jump straight up and surprise them there because they don't know what angle you're about to take. That sort of tactic is how you make those 1v1s into kind of a chess game, and you're predicting a movement that they're going to do and you surprise them with one of your own. So that kind of thinking is more than just run to spot, see someone shoot, hope that I sidestep a little bit enough to throw them off. And simply because I saw them first, my time to kill will be better than theirs. I mean, there's a lot that changes in those scenarios. And if you can make those small decisions, then you're going to win. You can also do it kind of on the fly of thinking like, wow, that guy's over there and he's sniping. I bet he's hard scoped on heavy right now. I can get up close and he won't have the tools he needs to fight me off. So my shotgun is about to beat this sniper. That sort of thing, that all happens right in front of you. And it's about fast decision making.
I like the chess analogy, and I like in particular how you said kind of thinking 10 moves ahead. I mean, I'm absolutely average at best, but I play a little bit of chess, and you have those moments where you see, okay, if this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, I'm going to be in a dominant position on the board, or I can take a key piece, or I can develop this piece into a really good position. And you kind of always want to have a plan like that in your head, but when you make your next move, you aren't thinking that. You're thinking, how can I keep the tempo in my favor? So what is the next thing I can do that can force them to respond instead of giving them an opportunity to take an action from scratch? Or maybe you're thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. At the individual level, like that is really where I think that's where tactics happen. But there's another side of it, which is when you're playing with a team and you're communicating, there is team-based tactics as well. And I think one of the biggest parts of that is choosing a focus, choosing who on the enemy team you're going to focus, who's out of position, who you're going to team shot, especially in D2 with more focus on primary and a overall slower time to kill. Teams that know how to think tactically to say, okay, this person pushed up too far. Everybody shoot him because the 3 of us can kill him a lot faster than he can kill any of us. And we don't have to worry about the others right now. That I think is one of the first things you start to kind of work on tactically as a group when it's not just you out on your own.
Yeah, if you're trying to add this into your repertoire and you haven't really thought about the game, don't overdo it. Don't try to add too much at one time. But I mean, I think all 3 of us can attest to going into a trials round with just one idea right at the top is already putting you at a good spot. So try to think of like, what's one idea you need in this round? What's one idea you want to focus on in this game? So we spawn in, we're at last exit, we're downstairs. We go, all right, they've gone up to the rumble twice. Let's go inside to the cross. Just that is a tactic we called right there. And we go, okay, cool. We don't have to then go, oh, if he comes to the store, blah, 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 blah. Like we don't try to crowd the comms, but we already know our move and we're moving confidently and it's already helping us rather than just, all right, let's all wander to a different spot.
Part of it is identifying what they've been doing because, a lot of times the pattern is very intentional on their part or they don't realize it's intentional. So especially in trials, you could see someone going to the same area. And if you give off the vibe that you also are doing exactly what you have been doing, sometimes you can catch them off guard and just play that as part of your card, like one of your cards that you're holding.
Yeah. Identifying what the enemy is doing is like the first way to work on tactics, because you don't even have to quite vocalize what you're about to do. You don't have to make that some sort of conscious like, oh, well, if they're doing this, I will do this. You just kind of happen to naturally react. And then realizing that you identified something and reacted to it is like absolutely the first step into having a plan.
I want to throw out a couple lightning round kind of tactical decisions that you can make. You can start making today, and these are all things we do anyways, but you can start sort of thinking about them consciously and making decisions. I think one of the biggest ones is, when do you use your grenade? Are you going to initiate a team fight with your grenade? Are you going to wait until someone drops behind cover and then force them out of cover, depending on what grenade you have? Are you going to save it for a cleanup, or are you just going to try and do as much damage to a bunch of, bunched up people as possible? Who do you focus? If there's 3 people you could shoot, who's the one that you want to aim at? And definitely who's the one you want to aim at until they're dead, and not just, jump from person to person, putting a shot into each of them. The obvious one at the team level is, when do you push? When do you fall back? And also thinking about positioning. When do you go high? When do you go low? When do you flank around? Or when do you just, stay put and hard scope? These are all decisions we're all making constantly. And yeah, like Bonesy was saying, I'd say pick one. go into a match and say, you know, I've got my T5 discipline gear on. I'm going to have a ton of grenades. I'm going to make sure that I use every grenade correctly this round. I'm going to make it a decision that I want to use to achieve a goal. You know, tactics is about a goal, which is winning the fight, big picture, and focusing on that. And then over time, it goes back to being automatic, but your instincts are better and you make the right decision automatically more of the time.
Making smart decisions.
I know personally that from a tactical point of view, I think that's definitely my stronger suit, especially when it comes to grenades and, you know, just trying to keep track of positioning options. I'm definitely a lot weaker at the strategy side, which is the big picture. So let's talk about that. Let's use trials as the example. What are some of the strategic decisions you make in a trials match?
Well, the first thing obviously is kind of just assessing your opponents, and some players don't need to do this. But if it's something like if you find yourself surprised, you know, you're caught off guard with a sticky grenade at the beginning of the round, inspect them, right? You're going, all right, these guys are running Sunbreaker. We've got 2 snipers, 1 shotgunner, that kind of thing. That's strategy. And then you're thinking, okay, 2 snipers means they can't be hyper aggressive. Maybe we could be more aggressive. And you just sort of think of, what are you looking at that has a weakness? Obviously, everyone's using a thing with a strength. Like everything is good, right? Like I'm assuming you're going against good opponents, but everything has to have a weakness, even if it's a small one. And exploiting the weakness of the thing is really what you're doing to win.
I'm reminded of this fantastic video, and this was posted a while back. Good luck finding it. By resident playbook educator and curmudgeon EA forum moderator, where he did a review of his own gameplay playing doubles on Asylum. And he took that to a really impressive degree that I think a lot of people could get to with practice, which is, especially in doubles, actually keeping track of who's who. So there was a Titan with a white shader on, and there was a Hunter with a red shader on. He started to notice things about their gameplay, like this Titan likes to stay on the ground. He doesn't use his jump a lot. The Hunter always starts his fight with a grenade, and he has a tendency to push out a little too far. That's difficult to do in the moment and it's impossible to do with, 6 people on the map, but starting to not just, look at their loadouts, but really kind of profile and keep track of who you're up against. So when you see them, come through that doorway or whatever, you have some idea of what to expect, and you start to build this knowledge about how they play or just how they're playing right now over the course of the match. And then make decisions and, communicate them to your team accordingly.
Yeah. You mentioned just keeping track of your opponents. You have to do that with supers. With that sort of thing. And if you can communicate that information to your teammates, it changes the way that your teammates will play immediately. If I got the Titan, that was the guy that had his Sunbreaker charged. The other 2 guys, we just remember that they use their Blade Dancer and their self-res, so they've got nothing. If I say that and I relay that into the headset, that's Swain's cue to immediately pop his Sunbreaker, because he's going to go in there and he's not concerned about a counter to his super at all. And that sort of information is so helpful just to keep track of it and keep track of the knowledge. You watch tournament play and you'll listen to Pashi and Lumi talk about who threw their grenades. It's like, that's tough to do. That is really hard to keep track of, especially in D1 where there's some pretty fast cooldowns. A Void Walker can have their grenade almost always, but you gotta try to do those short little mental math segments of like, wow, it's been a couple seconds. I need to maybe back off. He probably has his sticky back. Things like that.
That's those cooldowns are something that you can keep track of, not so much just for yourself, but for the other people. And with the slower cooldowns coming for Destiny 2, it'll be even more important to be able to say, oh, that guy used his, dodge, or he put up his wall. So if we destroy it now, it's going to be a little while before he has it again.
Yeah, there is this perk in D2 where it now displays for you super status just right there in the HUD, which is going to make that People will still ignore it, but make that a lot easier to track. But I think you can sort of make a distinction that, when you use your grenade is usually a tactical decision, but when you use your super is really more of a strategic decision because, look, you're probably only going to get your super a couple times in a match, especially if you're playing something round-based like elimination, that you want to use your super conscientiously. You want to use it in a way where you get the most value out of it. And that might mean saying, all right, I've got my Nova and this is heavy round and I think they're going to stay put. I'm going to go try and Nova the heavy. Or I've got my bow up and I'm going to combo it with someone else. I'm going to try and tether them and, the Goldie can clean up anyone who runs away. Maybe you want to spread them out. Maybe you want to use them sort of in synergy. Maybe you want to burn them as soon as you have them and try and get an edge. And this might be conscious or unconscious, but it's still a strategic decision that can really decide a whole game. Once you start chaining your supers together where you're using them in a way where you're making orbs for each other, you're positioning yourself in such a way where you can take advantage of those orbs, make sure you pick them up, that can win or lose matches.
Last week, I mentioned that a lot of the communication stuff can be done from a single player, who maybe a player that likes to help other players or wants to be someone who can carry in trials. And I think strategy is certainly important to those players as well. And you can talk about that with your loadouts. Think about how you guys sort of fit together. And, use the best thing in trials. I'm not going to tell you not to use Icebreaker. But if your teammates are using Icebreaker and you know that they're more passive players, it might be something you need to consider. You might think, you know what, I'm going to go sidearm because I will be able to handle the guys that puts too much pressure on my teammate who's using a scout rifle with Icebreaker, things like that. Or you might even think, our teammates, we're kind of slow, we're passive. We can actually benefit from a bubble. We're not really making the best use of my striker up close or my sunbreaker, but I can give orbs to my teammates and then we've got a Stormcaller. Boom, we can push hard with that. So those sort of strategic pre-game planning stuff can really go a long way, even if you're the only one really thinking about that on your team.
I think positioning is one of those things that has both short-term tactical and long-term strategic considerations. It might be that you're playing sixes on blind watch and you got the bad spawn and your goal is to take the high ground, get the good spawn. And so your strategic decision there is, even if we have to set up and fight our way through, or we're going to engage and everyone else is going to go run around on the spawn to try and prevent them from respawning there. That's a strategic decision that you make. And in trials, that might just be, hey, we're going to go left this time. Go left. Or you guys stay together. I'm going to flank around. Generally, if you're talking about positioning before the fighting has even started, that's really a strategic call. But tactically, these are the things you do in the moment. And you may not even have time to say them, but to do them. So if we're talking about that blind watch attack and you go, wow, everyone is sort of fighting in the tunnel and up on cage, I'm gonna go around to the right. I'm gonna make it all the way up. I'm gonna get behind them and jump up on top of the rings and try and shoot down. That 5 seconds it takes you to run from point A to point B when you have that opportunity, that's a tactical decision. I think everyone is responsible for good tactical positioning, but I know I benefit when there's one person in charge of strategic positioning as a group. And it's not even, it's not there's one person giving orders and everyone else is obeying those orders. It's just that one person feels okay to make a call without needing to kind of ask for permission. And you can just all be on the same page together. That even if you lose the fight, you were all following the same plan at the same time.
No, it's tough sometimes to be able to be the one to make that call, but sometimes it could be a consensus. You could say, hey, I think we should go this way. And another person says, well, they went this way, that way, or that way. And you kind of come to, okay, well, we're going to go and challenge here. Or we're going to send that guy off to flank over there. I do think that there are some benefits to figuring these things out, but I do caution, go into it slowly. Don't, go full on tactics, figuring out like what your 8 steps ahead are going to be, because you can overthink it from sometimes, and you can continue to get frustrated that your strategy isn't working, or everything's not coming together as you felt. So go a little bit into it, dip your toes, like everything else that we've been talking about, especially last week when if you were at a lower skill ranking, slowly get into that. Don't go full on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? Like, you can have the best tactical plan in the world, but if you miss your shots and get shot in the side of the head, it wasn't helping you there. But if you feel like you are ready to start getting into big picture strategy, I think there's 3 things that you can start doing right now that will help you improve. The first is watching good teams and seeing what their sort of strategies look like. And usually they're experienced enough that they don't have to say much. They can say, we're going left this time, or stay back and wait for special, or whatever. Usually very brief communications, and everyone knows exactly what they mean. Everyone knows exactly what left means. It's not just, turn your stick to the left and start running. The second thing I'd recommend people do is play other games. I know that I benefited a lot from playing Titanfall 2, which is a much faster paced game. And so I find myself forced to make tactical decisions a lot quicker. But one of the biggest ones, if you want to get into that captain role, the shot calling role, one of the best things you can do just to get started is work on your tone of voice, which means not getting salty and not saying, all right, we're going to go left because we died going right last time. Let's not do that again. It's not that.
Don't be a meanie.
Yep. It's not getting all stressed out because, the pressure's on, or we've got to win this round. You want to be a leader. You want, to be someone you can follow. And this is actually the harder one to do, is when you do decide you're going to make that call and say, all right, guys, we're going left this time, make sure you don't phrase it as a question. Because the moment you say, should we go left this time? You're done, man. You're done. You're waiting for someone else to say, to essentially do the thing you wanted to do, which is say, okay, thanks for the suggestion. I will decide, yes, we go left. And I think even just learning to speak in sort of that default tone of voice of, all right, going left, where it's not a question, even if it's just you doing it, even if no one else follows you, you've given some instruction that people can key in on that doesn't require them to think about the relative merits of it, whether I should do it or not. That's a big one. And in games where team chat is important, I know I've definitely improved a lot just by saying, I don't care if we win or lose. I don't care if I've got the best players on my team or if I'm the best player on my team. I want to just focus on trying to get everyone on the same page. And if we work together as a group, even if we lose, that's still an improvement, and just keep that even keel. It just kind of builds from there.
It's a lot to take in, but it just it clicks in one moment. You have one of those 1v1s go well while you're solo queuing in control. And you went, wait, that worked really well. You start doing that. You can add it in, start reacting to players a little quicker. And then suddenly it just kind of clicks with your team too. You guys are kind of moving as a unit and you go, that game felt good. Let's do that again. What was good about that game? Let's add it to our repertoire. And then you just kind of expand your tool belt. It goes beyond what grenades do you have? What weapons do you like to use? And then it becomes, what are my other skills? What are my other tools? And tactics and strategy are definitely some of those.
All right, Neon Knight. Did I answer your question, man? Answer your question? I hope so.
Yeah, we've got so much stuff, so much info coming out. We're almost there. It's what, like 85 days or something like that till Destiny 2? But that means
32 days until the beta.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's time to work on stuff. There is things to do. And in Destiny and in other games, there is always ways to keep your brain sharp and go into Destiny 2 with skills that apply to everywhere. That's kind of our goal with the Back to Basics is get your skills up so that we'll tell you what guns to use in September, right? Like we'll all figure that out together. Which one's strong? We'll get there. But if you got all the fundamentals, doesn't matter. You'll find those too.
Well said. Is that the end of the episode, guys?
I think it just ended. I mean, we've got 4 more of these, I think, until we can get our hands on the beta and tell you about that. So I think we got some more back to basics coming up. I don't know, what should we talk about next week? Actually, here you go. We talked about a lot of stuff last episode, and if you didn't listen, go back and listen. I agree with Neon. It was a pretty good episode. But tell us what you want to hear next. We covered a lot of stuff. What topic do you want to hear us ramble on about for probably too long? Leave a note in the comments or hit us up on Twitter. And tell us what you want to hear.
As always, if you haven't already, we would very much appreciate if you head on over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, because we're good. We're pretty good guys.
I feel like we're 5-star kind of guys.
5-star fellas.
5-star fellas.
There you go. So head on over, give us a review, say some nice things. Hopefully you enjoyed the content we put out week after week.
Actually, to be clear, I'm okay if you say mean things about us as long as you still give us a 5-star review. That's right.
Head on over to iTunes, give us a very mean review, but make sure it's 5 stars. And follow us on Twitter, Crucible Radio. A lot of things. Well, we got something big coming up. We got some new website news, right, Birds?
Oh man, guys, taking a beautiful website design and turn it into a working website. I always forget how much work that is. But we got the homepage done. I got the episode page. We got the menu. We've got a brand new website coming out. I'm not going to put a release date on it yet.
Check out Twitter, and we'll let you know it's live over there.
And when this new site arrives, coming with it is our brand new Crucible Radio store. Some of this gear you've seen it, and we're going to tease a bit more of it on the Twitter.
But yeah, good stuff. I've already got a couple of hats and some shirts that I'm very, very excited to share with y'all.
Bye, rumble ponies. Competition better than Microsoft or Sony. Bye, rumble ponies. Your 5,000 shotguns in the wind. Your 5,000 shotguns in the wind. We're sorry, birds. It has to happen. Woo! We're going 4v4
Lighters
now.
up
For everything, I guess.
back and forth. Catch you next week. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello everyone, Swain here. You know that Crucible Radio is your source for all things Destiny PvP, and I know you want more than just this video, so make sure to head on over to crucibleradio.com to find all of our past episodes, detailed Crucible maps, t-shirts, and much, much more.